All righty, welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I'm so excited to share with you our guest today, Justin Krane. Justin and I met not too long ago, a few weeks back, in actually a mastermind that we both belong to. But this is going to be a super fun conversation. And let me introduce Justin to you. Justin is a certified financial planner, is the founder of Krane Financial Solutions. He is known for his savvy, holistic approach to financial planning. He advises his clients on how to unite their business and personal money with their lives. Justin works with his clients to create purpose-driven financial plans, aiming for a return on life. And I love that concept. We're going to talk about that some today. He manages his clients' investment portfolios for their long-term goals, such as retirement. He is also the author of the book, Money, You Got This. It's a book about everyday, crazy, funny life experiences that we all have, with lessons for all of us. Justin received his Certified Investment Management Analyst SM, which is a CIMA designation, from Investment Management Consultants Association and in conjunction with the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, Justin is married and lives with his wife and 3 children. And how do you say where you live? Calabasas?
Calabasas.
Calabasas. I have never heard of Calabasas. Where is that?
Wow. Really?
Am I a weirdo? I know. Where's
Well,
Calabasas?
you're okay. Even though you've been under a rock, you're totally okay. Because don't mess with attorneys if they haven't heard with Calabasas. Eventually they will. The Kardashians, that's where they film Weeds.
You know what? Our Kardashian could show up on television and I wouldn't know it's a Kardashian. So
you're not missing anything.
I am living under a rock. I will confirm that.
A very good rock. A very good one.
All right. So you're neighbors with the Kardashians. That's hilarious. I had to share this because I think it's super fun. You had posted to your Facebook page that you have a son who is loving right now helping people build out their family tree on Ancestry.com. Is that a recent?
Yes.
I love that.
He's like this ancestry ninja. He found like my second cousin once removed who actually lives close to me in LA. And he has this passion for it. I think it's so cool. So I'm throwing a shout out for my son. If any of you want like a cool teen to like work and build your ancestry tree for like pennies, because he just wants to do it and get some experience, find me and we'll make it happen.
I love that. So the funny thing about that is my husband got into, I think it was probably Ancestry.com, maybe a couple years back, and he got like way into it. Like he was trying to connect all the dots and I felt like he had disappeared down a rabbit hole, but he learned some pretty cool things. So that's awesome. I love that your son is doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Justin, I really enjoyed our conversation the first time we connected. I found you to be extremely generous and you've got lots of great experience. Talk to us about how you got started in the financial world.
Well, I started out as a financial advisor for like a big Wall Street firm, but like way back in the day, like you're like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I had no clue. I just loved like collecting stuff, making money off of it, and then like selling it for a profit. So I was the kid that like collected comic books, bought candy, and then brought it to school and sold it to like my friends for like twice the price. And then the teacher was busted on me because like, you can't do that anymore, right? So I like the idea of investing, growing, and making money. And I just ran with that. And I knew I wanted to go into investing in financial advising, but I didn't know if I wanted to be like private equity, investment banking, like, or just being like a commercial. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was so lucky that I got into this profession because it's really, really rewarding. And it makes me feel good what I do. And the business model as well is great.
I love that. So would you say that you were somebody that early in your life had a knack for money, or was it also numbers? Like, were you drawn to the numbers side of it as well?
I liked money and I liked numbers, but so I've been doing this. I got into the business in 95. So I've been doing this 25 years, and about 10 years into it, I realized that there's another level of being a financial advisor, and it has to do with people, like
Mm.
communicating and really taking things to the next level with really trying to deliver to a client what they really want out of their life. I thought it was just about investing and growing people's money. But over time, as I became a CFP, as even when I got divorced, like that was a big, big thing for me.
Mm.
But when we have these life transitions, we begin to think and reflect about what's important and about how we want to run our businesses. Is that like, have you had some transitions with you where you're like, gee, am I doing really what I want? Could I take it to the next level? Does that
Well,
happen to you?
absolutely. So, and my path was that I've got two businesses. I've got my traditional legal practice, and then I've got my online, what I call legal information and education business. And what happened is about 12 or 13 years into my legal practice, I was really clear that the traditional legal industry was not serving a significant segment of the small business marketplace and
Hmm.
folks that I wanted to serve and that was serving. But through the traditional legal model, it just wasn't making a lot of
Right.
sense. The barriers to entry were too high. They're really kept out of the marketplace. And so I basically created a second path, an alternative legal service provider model as an alternate way to meet those needs. And and even when I speak now and I show up and talk with people, one of the questions I ask any entrepreneur is, what was your why? Like when you made the choice to go down this path, like what was the big reason why? Because that's really what I believe I'm protecting when I do legal work for somebody. It's yes, the contracts matter. Yes, especially the educational part matters. But what I want for people is I want them to be able to show up every day in the world and do work that they love, that they
Hmm.
care about, and be able to really be on fire with it and be successful, like eliminate risk, all that stuff. But it's really about protecting their ability to live life the way that they want to and do meaningful work.
For all of those people listening right now, there is a glowing aura around Heather right now as she's talking about this. I'm literally telling you, like a little angel came over and floated into the podcast recording room, and she is glowing, fully glowing, still as I talk. That's awesome. That's really cool. You know, we get into business with maybe a why or not knowing it, and then
Hmm.
maybe our why iterates from that. And my why today is so much different than what it was in the beginning. And maybe it'll evolve again, but I think there's a really big element of that for business owners. So I'm glad that that happened for you.
Yes, no, I agree. And I think the iteration absolutely is a thing. I mean, even that, so my podcast is called Guts, Grit, and Great Business, right? And the thing about grit and, really developing resilience, which let's be clear, if you're going to be in business, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, really, if you're going to pursue anything that you care about in life, having resilience helps. Having some grit helps. But in learning and really studying grit, like the thing that's fascinating is you're right. People often start with an interest that's usually self-related. Like, so you're interested in numbers or finances or
Yep.
whatever, right? But you show up and you practice the thing and you master it, and the purpose or your why evolves so that now you're on a mission to serve people in a whole new way
Yep.
and make connections for them through the work that you do that maybe weren't there to begin with. And that absolutely is the path to purpose.
I love the grit thing. I'm curious what you think about it. Like when you hear that word, what does it mean to you?
Hmm. A lot of things. I mean, it's a short word, but it has a big meaning. And for me, I have a long, like, I'll just say a very long standing personal relationship with grit.
Mm,
And so grit is woven into my life in a lot of ways, but I feel like the ray of hope, the ray of light that I want to shed on the word grit or the concept of grit for people is that I think it's really easy for folks to look around and go, he's got it made or she's got it made, or look at that, look, and see outcomes and see people at certain levels of success and think like, well, they're just the top of the class, or they had natural talent, or all these explanations that we tell ourselves about why people get to certain levels of achievement in life. And turns out the thing that is the most important when it comes to success is grit. It's just your ability to keep doing the same thing, keep
Wait a minute.
showing up.
Wait a minute, Heather. You weren't one of those instant successes overnight, like you just woke up and like killed it. You actually worked and failed and learned and did all.
Right? I know. I
Wow.
know. And I think people can forget that.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I listened to this podcast the other day about um Kabbalah. Weird. Kabbalah is like Jewish mysticism. And this guy
Mm.
started talking. I just was like, wow, what he's making a really interesting point that everyone has challenges and problems, but a lot of people don't openly talk about them. And it's not like you should put them on social media, but everyone is dealing with the 4-letter word that I'm not going to say on here. They're dealing with their own stuff.
Right.
And it's a question of how are you going to work through that in business? How are you going to work through it? And in life, how are you going to work through it? And I think there's something to be said about that. And I think in this day and age of like immediate, like, you know, white shiny object, like we got to work and persevere, because I think it's what we need more of. And I actually think the pandemic has made people realize that. I
Mm.
think people, and I actually wrote about this last week, that I think that there's more isolation going on right now. Even I'm talking not just within your family, but like just you probably have a little bit more time to yourself because you're not, you know, you're more one-dimensional with this. So maybe we're thinking more about, well, what is really, really important
Mm-hmm.
and what do I have to do to get it? And that is what I think is cool. And actually financial planning is a big part of that, at least in my profession, because I'm trying to deliver that to people through intentional action and thought and investing. So
No, that's
I
right.
love
Well,
grit. I love it.
yeah, it's, it doesn't matter what and it really doesn't matter even if you're up to something on an entrepreneurial path, in your business, in your career life, like wherever you are, or personal life. Really, my opinion is anything that's worth doing is going to require some grit, right? You just
Sure.
have to. So, but I think it's, I just want people to remember that they have a certain amount of control
Yeah.
over where they end up. And it doesn't have to do with talent. It doesn't have to do with a lot of these other things that people actually attribute success to. And so, and for you, like, I'm fascinated by people who work, because finances, it's interesting. People in business, right? And I live more on the business fundamental side, being in the legal side of the
Yeah.
equation. People can really want to avoid digging into what they perceive as some of the hard stuff to
Yeah.
do in business, right? And I
Sure.
think numbers are a part of that,
Yeah.
right? So for somebody like you that gets a lot of enjoyment out of finances and helping people with their numbers, with their financial paths, um, how, I mean, I'm curious, what are the roadblocks that you see getting in the way of people getting the help that they need when it comes to their
Yeah.
finances?
Let's first start with business owners. Um, a lot of them are the ones that are overwhelmed by numbers. They feel like they need to do all of the work on their own. And if they're not into it, which most business owners aren't, they're more into just, you know, their business, so to speak. If they're not into the numbers part of it, what they do is it's like they don't open up the hood to see what's going on. And if they can't see it or they don't know it or understand it, it's not their problem.
Mm.
And they just will be like, I don't want to deal with it. And then what'll happen is their cousin gets breast cancer, or their uncle passes away, or their friends' parents have to move in with their friends because the parents run out of money in retirement. It's some life core
Mm.
thing that's like, okay, that makes business owners be like, okay, I got to deal with this. And even just individuals got to deal with it. But here's the distinction that I want people listening to get at is that you don't have to do it yourself. You just have to find smart people to do it with you
Mm,
And I said with you, not for you, because for you means they do it and you still don't know what's going on. But they can do it for and with you. Like if I was going to China, I don't think I would make the decision to try to learn Chinese. I would like go there with a map, hire a tour guide, and have him show me like, all right, well, this is the Great Wall of China, and this is how you get there, and do it with me rather than me trying to figure out on my own. I mean, it's like an energy suck.
that's right.
So
That's right.
I think business owners need to be okay with the fact that if they don't want to deal with their money, it's not just on them. You got to get a really, really good bookkeeper. If you're doing some serious numbers, you got to get a good CFO or just someone to explain to you the numbers part of it. And then you need to make a decision. This is the biggest thing, that you have to be proactive with money. You can't be reactive. And I'm sure you know, Heather, like a lot of energy woo woo money people. Like that's not me. I'm just like, my whole family's from New York, and it's like, I'm just going to tell it like it is. If you don't deal with your money's going to deal with you, and
Right.
you're not going to be able to decide like things.
No, yeah, your money does not take care of
Yeah.
itself.
So I think people need to be okay with, and don't get so upset at yourself if you think you suck with money. I should buy a t-shirt. It's okay to suck at money. Just get the right help or like something like that.
It's
So business
true.
owners, they need clarity and they can't guess. And if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, this is resonating and I get it, just be like, okay, it's okay. The
Mm.
question is, you got to find the right people. You got to find good people.
Well, the way I describe this in sometimes talking with my marketplace or my clients is like, you have to look in the box. Like you have to open up and look at what needs to be done before you're ever going to tackle it. And I feel like so many people are afraid to even look in the box. Like
Yeah.
what's in there in regards to my money or in regards to
Yeah.
my legal scenario or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's just not a way to be in business
Yeah.
or with your finances to run through life, right?
If they can't see what's in the box, they don't know that it's not their problem. But it turns out it
Yes,
is their problem the whole time. They don't want to be conscious
that's
that
right.
it actually is. So that's on the business side. Can I just answer the personal side real fast?
Totally, totally.
A big thing that I think people need to do, and I know that everyone has heard this, and there's been gazillions of books on it, and I am not reinventing anything. I'm just throwing it out there, is that people need to automate their money. They need to automate their personal money, especially whether it's investing, mortgages, saving for college, paying down debt, whatever it is. Automation is huge because it removes the emotional part of, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do it? Maybe we forget that we need to do it. Maybe we're
Mm,
too lazy. Maybe get distracted. Maybe we're running our business over here on the business side and we forget on the personal side that we need to do some automation.
mm.
So this is where people are literally hearing this right now. They're like, okay, I get automation, but like, what do I automate and how do I do it? And like all that. Don't worry about the how yet. Just know that the what and the why is. The why is because you can have your money work for you. And I think you can be more proactive with it with a goal that you want to have happen. All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's really important. And I think that, even just the word automation, like I go, like it makes me want to kind of breathe a sigh of
Totally.
relief. And I think
Yeah.
the step before automation is people, I mean, however you describe it, like deciding their money rules, like actually putting the plan in place so that the automation just does it for you,
Yeah.
right? And you
Hmm.
can get help with the plan.
You don't even have to create it yourself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if I hired you to do a contract, would I try to write the contract? No, I would basically say, Heather, here are my problems. Here's what I'm concerned about. Am I missing anything? And you'd be like, yeah, you're missing these 7 things. Then you'd write it for me. And then I'd be like, okay, this is a 32-page legalese thing. What is this? Just tell me what it is. And
Yeah.
then you would just tell me.
That's
And
right.
then I'd feel informed and I'd feel good.
That's right. No, and that's the distinction, that what you said, that done for you versus done with you. I mean, I think there's a couple things in there. One is for anybody who's ever tried to outsource like an area of business or life without deciding what your goals are before you outsource, like how terribly wrong that goes, right? So that's the done for you. Like just handle it. But I think a lot of times it doesn't go the way that people think it will. versus the done for you, you get the support to actually understand what it takes to make the decision, but have help making it. And then somebody does the part. So for me, like, sure, I draft the contracts, I create the plan, but closing that loop is coming back and saying, here's how you do it. Here's what it means. Here's how it works for you. Here's best practices and how you would follow it. Right. And then you become a more empowered version of yourself to
Mhm.
follow the plan, to go do the steps. And you're not just wandering around in the dark.
People get paralyzed because they don't know what to do and they just freeze and they don't want to deal with it. And then it's New Year's Day and then they decide to deal with it. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So um, I think you're onto something. Speaking of onto something, for everyone listening, I want to talk about the art in Heather's room. I feel like I'm looking at the Louvre. She's got cool paintings everywhere. Like there's a Degas and Monet and like a Charles de Gaulle somewhere. I really, really like it. It's boy, are you an artist? Do you like paint and stuff?
I mean, I don't call myself an artist. I'm very creative and artistic, but I really appreciate art. And I am a former photographer. So I did professional photography for years.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm a very visual person. And so I love art and creativity in the house for
I
sure.
love it. You got some good stuff behind you.
Oh, thank you.
Are you giving any of it away to like your 1 millionth podcast listener or anything like that?
You know what? I hadn't thought about that, but I could actually.
Or it's like a guess what this is or where am I in this picture? I like it.
Totally. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, well, I've been relegated to the basement. I was like, I'm gonna make this office as nice as I can, even though I mean it's still always
Right.
crazy in this house.
Yeah.
But yeah, my kids got the upstairs room that actually has, daylight windows and stuff because, COVID and everybody being locked inside for hours on end.
I like it though. It's good energy.
It's good. So one of the other questions that I have for you, and partly I'm wondering, what are the ways that you work and support your clients? Sounds like both on the business side, on the
Yeah.
personal and financial side. I know you do like fractionated CFO services, right?
Fractional.
Fractional. Sorry, I can't even
I
get the
like
word
that
right.
word, fractionated. I'm going to use it. Don't edit that out. Keep that in your show.
Fractional. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm humble. I get things wrong all the
If you're
time.
an attorney, you can
Fractional.
do whatever you want.
That's right. Did
Yeah.
everybody who's listening hear that? I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Um, so
So
the fractional CFO services, talk to us about that. How does that work for
sure.
business
Yeah,
owners?
that's about a little less than a quarter of my business. But so if you're a business owner, what you need to know is, okay, what are your sales? Of course, you need to know
Mhm.
that, but you need to know what are your profits, and people hear that all the time. And then there's a lot of people that talk about cash. Well, how much cash do you have, and blah blah blah. I put all three of those together um, and help business owners understand the connection between how much money they're spending, how much money they're making, where that money is going, and then what are their strategic initiatives that they want to have happen in the next year. Let's just pretend that they want to create another service or a product offering. Well, if they wanted to do that, how much money would that cost? And when do they think
Mhm.
they could recoup it? And do they have the cash in their business to do that? Can they organically do it or do they need to save up for it? Oh, they need to save up for it. Okay, well, how long would that take? Oh, they have taxes. Okay, we got to deal with that. They want to put money away for retirement. We got to deal with that. So I'm looking at all of the business, all of the numbers that go into it, and I act as their advocate because when they don't want to deal with the CPA and don't want to deal with the bookkeeper, and they're like, "Dude, handle this, but tell me what I need to
Mhm.
know," they just forward me the emails or give me a task, and I run with it.
Mm.
So that's on
Amazing.
the business side. On the personal, so the business, I believe, Heather, is the engine that funds people's personal goals. That's how I got into business CFO stuff. Is I started asking my clients, I'm like, how much money does your business make, and how much can you pull out of that and invest over here in a 401k or what have you? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know? I didn't say it like that, but I was like, geez, like maybe there's an opportunity. So I just ran with it and I started teaching
Mhm.
myself the business numbers. But
Mm.
the real focus of my work is on the personal side, investment management, mutual funds, all of that kind of stuff, 401ks, budgeting, retirement, college, paying down debt, mortgages, and all of that. But how can people do that I mean, if you're W-2 and you're getting a paycheck, that's one thing. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're a business owner, you got to know how much money your business is making so that you can get clear on how much money you have after living expenses to do what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's those things.
Yeah, well, and it's all the things again that I think people generally don't want to figure out until they're forced to, or until they're heavily, heavily incentivized to, right? And it
Yeah.
was really interesting. I was having a conversation with somebody recently about the often negative association that we have with numbers. And I'd asked him, like, why do you think that is? And he said, well, we're trained from a young age that numbers are punitive. You look at
Hmm.
the grading systems in schools and, ideas around, he's like, even like stepping on a scale, right? There's so many ways that we negatively relate to numbers. And I'm like, is that what it is? I mean, does it literally start that young with people, or is it just that we get overwhelmed with life and numbers and finances just feel hard and scary, and most of us don't get the education that we need young to be able to be skillful in that area?
I think you're onto something. And I think that there's a certain element of what we call in my business money scripts or money stories.
Mm,
A lot of them we'll get from our parents or our grandparents, like, don't touch money, it's dirty, or you don't deserve to make a lot of money for whatever reason, or we grew up in the Depression and we just have this poverty thinking mode of there's not enough, it's scarce, whatever. Some people grow
drink
up
the
in
powdered milk. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Like prosperity could be, well, I'm going to create and manifest the financial life that I want to. But a lot of people have money stories that, um, I'm working with a client right now, where their their parent passed away at an early age, and they were in charge of dealing with some of the family money.
Mm,
And um, a long time comes and goes, and they never wanted to deal with it, and now this person's in their 50s and they got to deal with it. And I started working with them and they didn't get back to me right away on emails, and I initially knew what it was. It went all the way back to their money stories. Am I a therapist? No, I'm not. Am I in therapy? Yes. Working on myself, major. Ever since I got divorced, I'm remarried and all that. But like,
mm,
I'm just trained to know enough to pry and to get in there. But people do have money stories.
mm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I look even at I think of the money story that I inherited about, like, it's hard to make like, it takes hard work. You have to, like, all the things. And my dad came from a really poor family. He was one of 11. Like, they literally lived in homes that didn't have running water for periods of
Wow.
time growing up. He
Wow.
got sent one summer with a couple of his brothers to just go live in the hills. Like, we don't have enough room or resources for you. Anyways, so
Wow.
yeah, and he was
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah, he would have been like, 10 or 12 or something at that age. So he really inherited, like, his story, and his mindset is really, for me, like a generation or two older than him, right? But we grew up with, again, you have to work really hard for money, and money doesn't grow on trees, and all of this kind of stuff. And yet, I think I naturally come with a fairly abundant mindset,
Mm.
but the way that I dealt with my money, and, like, I still have loads to learn. I got to get my own money stuff in order. But the way that I dealt with money up until the point that my mom died was like I was a penny pincher. I had lived and believed that story of, like, I've got to save, 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 and not in a bad way. Like, I was really just a hardworking kid and I was a saver. And so when kids were spending like their $50 on Guess jeans, I was going to Shopko and getting $5 jeans. I was like, I'm not wasting 45 bucks, right? I know how hard it was to work for that money. But then my mom died young. And so suddenly I was like, you know what? That other approach isn't really worth it. Like, if you're going to save and scrap and work so hard and never enjoy the fruits of your labor and then die young, Like that was a real eye-opening moment for me. And I think that it has helped me achieve better balance in my own, approach with money, but I still don't consider it that balance because I need more structure. And yet I can see exactly where certain patterns came from,
Yeah,
right?
that's really amazing. Um, the structure part, automation could help that.
Mhm.
The automation part. And I have this whole Weight Watcher spiel. Can I give you my Weight Watcher spiel?
Totally.
I did Weight Watchers for a little bit, and I'm not 800 pounds. Don't worry. Like,
I've been through Weight Watchers as
yeah.
well. I'll
And
just say
the
that.
thing, the thing about Weight Watchers, why it's so good, why I like it, is it gives you um, some structure. You have these
Mhm.
points that you get per day, but you have a little bit of flexibility in terms of what you want to eat and when. So if you want to have 3 chocolate chip cookies in the morning, you have to eat carrots the rest of the day.
Or
You're like,
green beans, right? A
yeah,
can of green beans.
yeah. So what you get with Weight Watchers is a sense of balance. It's not
Mm,
all depriving, and you can enjoy the foods that you like. And it's the same thing with money. I think Wall Street, it's coming around finally to the sense of balance, because um, a lot of financial advisors will tell their clients that they should just save so they can live the life that they want to when they're 84. And at 84, you'll have $22 billion and great. Like, I'm sorry, I think people need to go to Starbucks and spend the $7 on the coffee, because they're going to be happier along the way. And being happier along the way, they're going to be more productive and make more money, and they could save some of that. And the ride will be better.
yes. Thank you for that. Yes.
But the thing I'm not saying go spend it all. I'm saying
Mm-mm.
balance. If you can figure out how to save, you need to be okay with spending as well.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that the savers need to see in a plan that they're going to be okay so they can go to Hawaii with their family and spend 10 grand. The
Yes.
spenders need to see that they're going to run out of money so that they need to save, which will get them in the right pattern.
That's right. No, that's right. It's getting that pendulum to swing a little closer to the middle from either side.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I really resonate with your story about your mom, and I'm sorry about your mom passing
Mm,
away. Um, and my father passed away a little over 2 years ago,
mm.
and it was my first. I mean, I've had friends. I mean, we all have friends that pass away or whatever, but when you lose someone really, really close, you really get in touch with your own mortality, and you get clear on the fact that you're not going to live forever.
That's
And then
right.
you get even more purposeful about what it is that you want to do and how you want to be.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And the silver lining, I mean, and it's really hard to even say that out loud, any silver lining about death, but my mom died the first year that I was in law school. She was diagnosed with a terminal brain cancer, glioblastoma, like 2 months into my first year of law school. And then she passed away 10 months later. And in that span of time, like law school became this whole secondary thing. Like life took a front seat. Law school, was very secondary, but even coming out of law school, it really changed my course about like whether we have time to walk somebody else's path, right? And for somebody in law school, like you're funneled into either a large firm job or government work. Like there's very clear paths that you go on, and nobody was opening their own legal practice. But I was like, I don't want to do somebody else's work. I want to do my own work. I want to work for clients that I choose. And so, it changed more than my money story, but it really changed, I think, even the course of my own path. And, it resonated what you said about people often not changing their money patterns or even engaging in financial planning until a crisis hits, right?
Yeah.
Until something big time hits their life that makes them really examine what they're doing and whether they're planning, whether they have the support or structure that they need.
Yeah.
So, going back to one of the concepts, and I want to ask you about your book, Money, You Got This, but I also want to learn more about what return on life means.
Well, I think return on life. So with investing, it's like, what's your rate of return and how are we doing and all of that. And I think that if we can use our money more in congruence with what we want out of our life, That's what return on life is. So return on life for you was you didn't go down that path forever of working for a big law firm, and you used your goals, um, desires, energy, and money in a way that was going to be better for you. So you're having a better return on your life than you would have had you gone down that corporate route. So return on life is a little bit more about now, and not as much about 30 years from now. Like, of
Mm,
course it is about your future, but like, we got to enjoy the journey. And that's great if it's going to be hokey and all that. But like, I'm talking about like rolling up your sleeves and figuring it out how you're going to like be financially okay for the next 2, 3 years and working at it. I'll just share one thing. Like last year, this was definitely because my dad died. I was like, okay,
mm,
I'm not going to live forever. I thought I was, but it was a whole story in my head. I'm like, of
right.
course I'm not going to live forever. But I'm like, one of the things that I remember about my dad was that he took us on these awesome family vacations. I mean, my mom
Mm,
too, but my parents, we just did great family vacations. And I'm like,
mm,
I got to give these experiences to my kids too, and for me. So
mm.
we went to London and Israel for about 2.5 weeks, and it was awesome. It was crazy expensive for me. I saved up for it, and I saved along the way. Like, it was a whole thing.
Mm.
But looking back, I'm glad that I did that, because this summer no one's traveling.
Right, right.
And I'm glad that I did that. And I'm glad that I had that experience with my kids, and I was able to give it to them so that they
Mm,
will remember that. So
mm.
that for me is return on life.
Well, I love that example. And likewise, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad passing.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's rough. It's really rough.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that concept because, again, even when I look at my money story and what shifted for me young, like having that balance. I mean, return on life to me really sounds like knowing how you can have that balance, knowing how you can take care of yourself now and be planning for the future, but also be creating what you want to create. Um,
Yeah.
so, talk to us for a minute about your book, Money, You Got This.
Let me tell you, I had so much fun. So this started out as just writing newsletters and blogs and whatever. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I need to make this into a book. So I packaged it in a way to make it into a book with, chapters and key takeaways and stuff like that. But this book is like a Seinfeld or a Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's a book about nothing, zero. There is nothing in here. You could start on page 42 or 212. It doesn't matter. I literally would take crazy crazy life stories and turn them into money lessons. Can I just share one?
Totally,
All right.
totally.
This is just an example. So, and a lot of them are with my wife because, like, I'm a guy. So, like, we get in the car, we're going out to dinner, and like, she jumps in the car. Her hair was wet. She just got out of the shower, and she didn't do her makeup, and she took her lipstick out and like took it. Like, okay, I'm driving, and I see her with this lipstick. She starts rubbing it on her cheek. I'm like, babe, what are you doing? She's like, oh yeah, I'm just putting on some blush on my face. I'm like, that's lipstick. She's like, yeah, you can put it on and use it as blush if you don't have any or whatever. I'm like, what? So I was like, that's insane. And then I'm like, oh, there's a money lesson here, especially for business owners. Inventory your content, whatever. There's always another way that you can reuse something and make it work without spending any extra money. Hence,
Mm, right,
so,
right.
another one is we all have gone to a vending machine. We've all put in our dollar or $2 or whatever it is, and then the candy gets stuck in the machine. The Reese's get stuck, and you paid the money, and you can't call the 1-800 number because you didn't have a cell phone back then. It's like, so everyone can relate to that. And I'm like, oh my God, this happened to me. This is insane. What's the story? Well, the story is in business and in life, when you're working with advisors and people, you need to make sure you're getting what you pay for. You have to have clear
Mm-hmm.
expectations of, if I'm paying you this, what am I going to get in return and when? So that's the book. It's just funny stories that everyone can relate to, and a lesson with it, and then a takeaway.
Well, I love it. I mean, these little anecdotal things, though, they really do bring to life the lessons. I mean, even that, like, clear expectations about what are you going to get and in what time frame, right? I had
Yeah.
that experience of putting money into a vending machine and being like, even if I could call the 1-800 number, I'm not going to stay here for an hour for them to like,
Yeah.
that's right. That's a big waste of time.
Let me ask you this one. Have you ever replied to an email and hit a reply all versus just replying to one person and you're like, oh my God, I just did a reply all?
I'm sure I have. There are some
Yeah.
horrible, like horror stories in the legal field about that, right? But
Yes.
luckily, I have not been one of them.
My lesson is that you can't get generic advice that someone gives and expect it to be just tailored for you. Like, so
Right. Right.
we can go on and on, but I had so much fun with the book. I'm sure people are like, okay, we get it, but like, it was fun, and it was
No, that
cool.
that does sound fun. Well, I love it, and I'd love to include a link for it on the show notes page. So for people listening, and I've still got another question or two for you, but for people listening, make sure that you visit the show notes. They can be found at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. We're going to put Justin's contact information up there. Justin, I know that you've also got a gift for the audience. Do you want to
Yes.
talk to us for a minute about that?
Yeah, we talked a lot about, there was this quiet word that it was kind of out there, which is intention. You and I talked a lot about that in various
Mm.
ways. So I want people to be intentional with their money, and I want people to learn what multimillionaires do and what they have done to become multimillionaires. And a lot of it has to do with being intentional and specific action plans.
Mm.
So the URL where I'd like people to go is intentionmoney.com. Intentionmoney.com. And there are 3 strategies that multimillionaires use to set themselves up for success.
I love that. I think that's an awesome gift, and I'll be sure to include that link along with your others. So we've covered a lot. This has been a super fun conversation. What final takeaways or points or thought do you want to leave with our listeners?
I'll say this for everyone listening, I 100% believe in you,
Mm.
that you are awesome and that you can have the financial life that you want. You got to just work at it. And I sometimes in the podcast, I bring in my wine mic. For everyone listening, I'm holding a wine bottle and talking into it. It is not plugged into anything, but I don't care. I'm talking into a wine mic. I believe that you can have a great financial life now, not when you're 91, but now. You got to work at it. I'm about possibility and growth. So I
Mm.
believe in you.
I love that. Well, we all need that, and especially when it comes to our finances. So be sure to check out Justin. Justin, you're awesome. I so enjoy you. Thank you for joining me today and sharing your fun stories and your brilliance with our audience. I
Thank
hope we
you.
get to connect soon.
You got it.